Welcome to the Industry Experts Panel at PortfolioWealthGlobal.com. My name is Michelle Holliday. Today we have a rare treat. We are welcoming Mr. Gerald Celente. Gerald is a pioneer trends strategist and a master of predictions. He is the creator of the Trends Research Institute, which forecasts history before it happens. His motto is think for yourself, and his predictions are so uncanny that the New York Post says if Nostradamus were alive today, he would have a hard time keeping up with Gerald Celente. Portfolio Wealth Global is very excited to have him on the show today as our special guest because the trends are certainly changing as we have entered 2018. As we are recording this, gold is rocketing and trading at its highest level in 4 months, so it is clearly in a bull market. The dollar, on the flip side, has gone from bad to worse, and although we do not discuss geopolitics too often on our shows, today we will be asking Mr. Gerald Celente for his input on that topic as well. Gerald, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for having me on, Michelle, and thank you for the great work that you're doing.
Oh, we are thrilled to have you here. My first question to you is this. We are in year one of Donald Trump's presidency. Is there any difference in terms of this merger between state and corporations on behalf of the people, or is this the same old corruption that most Americans sometimes do not even seem to recognize is happening any longer?
Well, first off, to make it clear, I'm a political atheist. There's nobody I would vote for. So to make it clear, it's not whether I like Trump, dislike Trump. He's not my kind of guy. To make it really clear, we were the first magazine to say that the Trump rally was real. And this is a week after he got elected. And in the field that I'm in, particularly associated with, is very bullish on gold and the markets were going to crash. We did a 180 on it because you look at who he is, who he represents, and who are the people in his government. It's the Goldman Sachs gang, Mnuchin, Cohen. Look at the tax cuts. Who did they help? Go back to September. Trump said they're not going to help the wealthy. That's all they helped. The average people get nothing. $900 for the $930 for the average middle class family, and that's going to run out in several years. But it really helped the multinationals and all the big tech companies and the others that were hiding all their money offshore. And by lowering the tax rate from 35 to 21%, it's going to make them even richer. And to make this clear, when you're looking at earnings over the last year in corporations, they were doing very well. But they weren't putting the earnings back into capital improvements. They're putting back into stock buybacks. And that's what you're going to see more of. Even when Apple puts out this a rotten Apple BS, how much they're going to be investing back in the United States, bringing the money back in, they're investing very little. You're going to see most of it going into stock buybacks, merger and acquisition activity. So that's what's rising, will keep the markets going up. And that's why we changed our forecast immediately after Trump got elected. We said if he follows through on tax breaks and deregulation, it's going to help the multinationals. Let's go to the numbers again. It doesn't help we the people. You look at that Oxfam report that just came out a few weeks ago. It shows that of all the wealth created in 2017, 82% of it went to the top 1%. Look in the United States. The gap between the rich and the poor is the widest of any of the industrialized nations. Wages aren't going up. They're not even keeping up with inflation. So, yes, it's the merger of state and corporate powers. Look at the little clowns, the little lowlives that people like to call their governors, senators, and congressmen, fighting over who's going to give Amazon the biggest tax break so they can open up one of their slave camps in a city near you. And I say that because the average pay in Amazon is about After taxes, about $19,000 a year. And we're giving a tax break to a guy that's the richest man in the world, worth over $110 billion. It's the merger of state and corporate powers. It's called fascism. That's what Mussolini called it. Too big to fail? That's not capitalism. It's fascism. In capitalism, there is no such thing as too big to fail. Trump is playing out the role of who he is. Everyone knows his reputation as a business person, and that's all he's pushing through for America today, is who he is, what he wants, and what the bigs get.
Gerald, you predicted many of the most important trends in the fields of occupations over the years and consumer preferences. What are some of the best career moves that millennials can pursue in this age where this is all happening? And which industries does the United States still lead today in the world?
Well, the United States is falling behind in the biggest industry, and that is high tech. And one of our top trends for 2017, a year ago, was Silicon Valley, Rust Belt 2.0. And you're seeing it now with China starting to take the lead in artificial intelligence. So for millennials is to take a global view. Start looking what's going on in China, what's going on in India, what do they need that they don't have? What can I sell them? And the other things millennials really have to do is broaden their mindset, because they're stuck in an identity crisis, and the identity is their own. Look at the news that they get. They get news that they like. News is fed to them of what they are interested in. They're in a bubble. Our system of forecasting trends is called globalnomic. It's a global view of issues, current events, regardless of the field: environmental, social, industrial, economic, technology. It expands into all different fields. So if millennials want to grow, even take it to the example, Michelle, of identity politics. It's on a narrow scope of vision. This is what I like. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I want. Oh, great. Knock yourself out, man. Mm. But if you want to open your mind up, how about what you don't want? How about what you don't know? How about what you're not interested in that may expand your frame and expanse of thinking? So for millennials to really move ahead, they have to break out of the plantation economy mentality that is controlled by, again, the plantation owners: Google, Facebook, Amazon, and all your big multinationals. Why did the malls fail? Because every one of these ugly joints almost looks the same, and you could buy the same crap anywhere, because they've all been taken over by the bigs. When I was a kid growing up, we had a Macy's over in Herald Square, one up in Yonkers and one out in Long Island. And then they greedy little clowns started buying up everybody. We got to get bigger. We got to get bigger. We got to get bigger. And they got so big that they lost their creativity. We got a corporate mentality. Oh, great, man. Just what I love being with corporate cats, man. Aren't they fun? Yeah. So millennials need to break loose into going back to the basics. One of our top trends for 2018 is organic growth cities. And that means a lot of millennials can't afford to live in the expensive cities anymore. They're moving away. Where are you going to move to? They're moving to old cities that were Rust Belt cities that died when an industrial age died, or they didn't need the resource anymore. They're close enough to urban centers, have transportation, airports, whatever it might be close by, but they have the authenticity of the old age rather than the ugly garbage that they're building in glass and steel that all looks the same. It's not a death of brick and mortar. It's a death of the old, ugly corporate model. So there's opportunities for individuality by bringing creativity back into these cities that are going to experience a great rebirth because they're affordable, they're beautiful, and people want unique. Unique in the sense that we've been so inundated with a technological world that they want to have a human experience. So go back into those fields and start. There was a thing called the Renaissance, all right? So what did they say in Florence at the height of the Renaissance? Alla Romana, alla Antica. In the manner of the Romans and the ancients. They realized that things weren't going so good now because the Black Plague had just, this is where the Renaissance began. After the Black Plague, people are watching everybody die around them. When was it better? When was there a higher quality? When was there a passion for creativity? That's what's empty now, and that's what's ready to be filled.
That's beautiful, because some of these older communities, too, if you go back out into the country, and they're just gorgeous. And you're right. Everything in the city is the stack and pack. It all looks the same. It's very mundane and boring and etc. Gerald, what is the likelihood of an escalation in the confrontation with North Korea? Are these real threats? Obviously, nobody wants war, especially when the economy is actually starting to look better compared to a number of years ago.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody wants war. One of the things that I've done is launched OccupyPeace.com, and I closed down the most historic Four Corners in America in colonial Kingston, where we are. And we own 3 of the buildings, the pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings. Had Ralph Nader, Cindy Sheehan, Dr. Robert Thurman, Gary Null, and we got very little support. There's very little support for peace. People like war better than peace because they're not putting their money where their minds or hearts are. And we're in the mentality, support the troops and war on terror forever. I've been hearing about North Korea all my life. And we really have to worry about North Korea. We have a lot to fear about them. Look what they did when they invaded Iraq, when that guy over there in North Korea said they had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. Look what the North Koreans have done to Afghanistan. They're there for almost 17 years. Hey, how about the North Koreans, how they destroyed Libya? Yeah, Gaddafi has to go. Yeah, you remember their Secretary of State, the North Korean Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, when they asked her on YouTube, anybody could see it, how did you feel when you found out Gaddafi was murdered? We came, we saw, he died. Oh, yeah, that was the North Koreans. So look what they did to Syria. Assad has to go, they said. Of course, I'm being facetious. North Korea hasn't done anything to anybody. The United States has 38,000 troops there on the South Korean border. For people that don't give a damn about history, what happened with the war in Korea? Who started it and why? Do you know the pilots used to radio back that there was nothing left to bomb? The United States killed over 3 million North Koreans in the Korean War. Korea never did anything to anybody. People call them neocons, the people that keep wanting war. How about calling them sick SOBs? How about calling them psychopathic murderers? Hey, Michelle, isn't America great? You been on the subways in New York lately? Yeah, it's a night in Calcutta. Look at Amtrak. Hey, remember that thing that flew off the tracks in Washington? Travel around the world. Look at the rotting, stinking systems we have. You fly every time I fly back into JFK, it's a joke from when I come from other places around the world, how dilapidated it is. And then driving back on the highways and seeing all the garbage and the crap and how run down the country is. And we're telling other people what they should do? And I want to make this very clear. You listen to a guy like Jeff Bezos, again, the richest guy in the world. They ask him, what kind of people do you want to hire? He said, people that are winners. People that have a track record of success. Okay. Tell me, Michelle, how many wars has America won since World War II?
I don't think we've technically won any wars, have we?
You got it. But I got a plan. I got to tell you, I got a strategy this time. We're going to wipe them out. I'm tired of hearing the BS. So when you talk about North Korea, forget North Korea. Nothing's going to happen there. I've been hearing this all my life. Because if you attack North Korea, say goodbye to South Korea. Seoul is only 35 miles from the North Korean border. 24 million people in the Seoul metropolitan area in South Korea. You bomb North Korea, say goodbye to Seoul. Oh, and by the way, kiss the rest of South Korea goodbye, and see you later, Japan. They're not going to do anything. That's why North Korea has nuclear weapons, because they made it very clear. They saw what the United States did to Saddam Hussein. They saw what the United States did to Gaddafi, and they say, you're not going to do that to us. What we're concerned is the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia are ratcheting up the war drums and beating them louder for war against Iran. That's the one to watch out for. And it's getting hotter and hotter. You got this guy over there, Nuts Netanyahu, over there in Israel. This guy's been screaming about the Iranians forever. And what does he say? Iran has no business being in Syria, and if they stay there, we're going to attack. Hey, what right do you have to say what they should be doing there? They were invited by the Syrian government. Oh, you don't like the Syrian government? Too bad. And then you got this other guy that they call the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, this madman who started the war in Yemen that's killed over 15,000 people. Over 1 million people are suffering from cholera, and the United Nations calls it the worst humanitarian crisis in the world, that the United States is supplying the armaments, reconnaissance, and refueling to destroy this country. Because this 30-year-old guy at the time started it. Now he's 32. There's no outrage about it. But you can see what's going on. And by the way, you know how he became a crown prince?
No.
The princess kissed the frog, and the frog became a prince. What crown prince? Stop this fairy tale crap, crown prince. How about a gang? How about the Saudi gang that was created in 1932? Crown prince. It's a mafia, and the Americans are protecting the mafia. That's why you have a thing called a petrodollar. That was the deal made by Nixon and Kissinger to protect the Saudi mafia, and the deal was, we'll protect you guys, but you got to sell all your oil in dollars. Because the United States was going down in 1971 when they took us off the gold standard because of the moronic, murderous war called Vietnam that everybody doesn't want to talk about anymore. That's the deal. So all this has to do is about sick people that want a lot of money and power. So when you go back about peace, people won't spend a penny for peace. We could hardly raise any money at all for OccupyPeace.com.
Oh, wow. You know, you just mentioned the petrodollar. There is a lot of information out there that the world is changing from the petrodollar. What do you think is going to happen in the United States when this deal is done?
Well, when the petrodollar dies, the United States dives with it. People are so narrow-minded in America of what's going on in the world, and China, Chinese and India economies. You're talking about populations, 2.6 billion people combined. 2.6 billion people. What do we have? 320 million. China's going to be the number 2, and India's going to be the number 3 economy. And they don't want to deal in dollars anymore. And the yuan, the Chinese currency, what China's saying now is, we'll buy your oil, but we're not paying you in dollars. We'll pay you in yuan. But you could change your yuan into gold anytime you want. Having said that, it's still important to understand that the United States is still the dominant reserve currency. And it's going to take a time for the Chinese, the yuan is only about 2.5% of the reserve currency right now. But the trend is in place. It's going to start to change more and more rapidly. Do you know when the Chinese come here and they go to Silicon Valley, they can't believe how run down and backward it is now? And that was one of our top trends, again, for 2017, Silicon Valley, Rust Belt 2.0. The Chinese are taking over. The Indians are going to move into it. The mine could go anywhere. Again, the Rust Belt, you had building in the United States because of a resource that they had, a location that they had, a waterway, or an industry. The mine is free to go anywhere. And the Chinese are putting their money in their mines and in business, while America, the business of America is war.
Wow. Gerald, let's shift gears just a little bit. Portfolio Wealth Global's founders just attended the North American Bitcoin Conference in Miami last week, and this entire industry is so exciting, and it seems to be growing more and more creative and innovative with every day that passes. Are you excited about the developments occurring within the cryptocurrencies, which make financial technology available to over 3 billion unbanked and undocumented people throughout the world so that they can now step into financial technology?
Oh, absolutely. And the only negative of what's going on is that the governments are going to do everything to crack down on it. And we've been very positive. When Bitcoin first happened several years ago, my first reaction was they're not going to allow this to happen. You know, it's a populist coin, and it's showing what a fraud fiat currencies are. And then it grew, and then I changed my thinking on it. I said, oh, this looks great. This is really going to happen, particularly the blockchain technology and all that it offers. But then you start seeing the governments cracking down on it, whether it's Ukraine or South Korea, whether it's Australia, whether it's the Eurogroup talking about it. And so that's our major concern, is that will the governments continue, China, of course. And when China, by the way, back in September, when they banned Bitcoin exchanges, people bypassed it. And of course, most of over 2/3 of the Bitcoin mining was coming out of China. But then they clamped down on it harder. But when they initially clamped down on it on September 30th, it was 5% of Bitcoin sales were coming out of China. By the beginning of November, 20% were. So we thought, okay, the people could bypass the government regulations. But then they clamped down harder. And now you're seeing it in South Korea harder. But then you have Japan where they're opening it up more. So it really depends on, as we're looking at it, what are governments going to do to stop it? And that is the bottom line with us. The cryptos that we see growing and expanding are the ones that will have applications that enhance transfers of funds very rapidly and offer technologies, and may they even be services in a different direction. Those are the ones we see for the opportunities. And blockchain is just the beginning. And one of our top trends, by the way, for 2018 is blockchain democracy. And if anybody wants to go to our website, trendsresearch.com, and click on Trend Updates, and we have the top trends there. And blockchain democracy means this. We have, in the United States, for example, congressmen and senators, representatives of the people. And they decide for us what laws they should pass and what they should tell us to do. You mentioned about our motto, think for yourself. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that was taught to me by my dear father, may his soul rest in peace, when I was a little boy. And I'd be shooting my mouth off, and he'd look at me and give me a disgusted look. And in Italian, he'd say to me, "Pappagallo," parrot. Mm-hmm. Stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself. And in that kind of tone, it was a disgust. And I realized that before I open my mouth, I better have facts. So in going to think for yourself, what do I need? Some little clown like Paulie, Eddie Munster Ryan? Lindsay, did you come out of the closet yet, Graham? Nancy out of her mind, Pelosi? Diane Not-So-Feinstein? Little Chucky Schumer? Which little piece of garbage crap do you believe in that should tell you what to think? Who made this crap up? They don't represent us. They represent the people that give them campaign contributions. And by the way, the term campaign contributions, that's what little ignorant, cowardly morons call it. Adults call it bribes and payoffs. So with blockchain technology, we tell them how to vote. Boom. Here's our vote. No, don't tell me, Junior, that my vote is being hacked. It's blockchain tight. We the people will tell you what to do. Get this in your head, little boys and girls. 2 words, public servant. Capiche? We'll tell you what to do. Blockchain democracy. Go to Switzerland, the richest country in the world. Direct democracy. The people vote. Who's the president of Switzerland? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. The people vote. Oh, the people are too stupid to vote. Yeah, save it, man. You think John Insane McCain is smarter than you? Little arrogant guy we got over here in New York. Arrogant Cuomo, another guy born on third base, thought he had a home run. He'd be a nobody if his old man wasn't Mario Cuomo, like his arrogant brother, Chris Cuomo, on CNN. You think these guys would get jobs like this if they didn't come from the top? So we the people with blockchain, going back to cryptos and the positives, blockchain is the biggest positive out there. This is a new millennium, and talking about the cryptos, the world is going cashless. When you go to China, nobody uses credit cards or cash. BAP, it's your app. So you're not connected to a coin of the realm. And that's why they want to stop Bitcoin from happening and others, because people don't need their crappy fiat currencies printed on nothing and backed by nothing. Digital dollars, give me a digital crypto, I'll take that instead, is what a lot of people are thinking.
So you don't see a cashless society as being a threat like many people say?
Oh, it is. It's a threat in the other sense. That's why they did it in India when they called in all the rupees back on November 8th, 2016. It was Election Day in the United States when they called in 86% of all the currencies. And if you didn't turn them in, they'd be useless because we're going to print a new one so that they could get every penny that you're spending. They know where it's going, who got it, and so they could get their tax. So on that aspect, digital currencies are a government's dream so they could control you more because they'll know every penny that you're spending.
Joe, let's talk about some of the positives like cannabis legalization. What is your view of Jeff Sessions' strategy, and how do you see cannabis progressing now that 14 more states are in the process of legalization?
As far as Jeff Sessions' strategy, who would believe this little jerk when he compares marijuana to heroin and still calls it, a gateway drug? I mean, come on, grow up. Hey, how about the opiate crisis, Junior? So don't worry about Sessions. And we were one of the first magazines, and one of our big articles was Reefer Money Madness. There's going to be a ton of money to be made, and this is just the beginning. You're getting more and more states not only making it legal for recreational use, but also the bigger issue is medical marijuana and all the benefits of natural. Look, people go to natural herbs. I mean, I think marijuana was around a little bit longer than before they banned it in the 1930s, you know? So this is just the beginning of it. It's going to continue to grow, and the other driver of it, Michelle, is that money, taxes, taxes, taxes. They could tax it. When I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, you used to have the guys, the vegetable men. I remember they used to have vegetable men going by with their trucks, and they play the numbers. The numbers were the last three numbers at the attendance of Aqueduct Raceway. If you guessed those three numbers, you'd win. And then, of course, the DAs and the police, they'd break them up, because it's the people that can't afford it that are playing the most, and we can't have this crime going on any longer until we got into lotto. And then you got to be in it to win it, and they made lotto illegal because the state could grab the dough from it. And it's the same thing with marijuana. And I remember when gambling was illegal. But now the states are in it. It's okay because we can get our tax dollars. So as the United States keeps going down, as the tax burden continues to increase, as the deficit continues to balloon, they need more dough. So they're going to make marijuana more and more legal. It's a growing business, will continue to expand, and in all new different ways and different levels. It's no more rolling a joint. It's all these other ways of getting high and using it for different purposes. Medical being, again, as we see, one of the greatest breakthroughs in the future.
Gerald, this has been an amazing interview. Will you please tell our listeners about Trends Research Institute and the Trends Journal?
Yes, they could go to our website, trendsresearch.com, trendsresearch.com. And again, click on when you go there, Trends Updates, and you could see our top trends for 2018. And to subscribe to the Trends Journal, because it's not only the Trends Journal, we put it out, it's going to be coming out every month. We have a Trends in the News broadcast every Monday through Thursday. We put trend alerts out, and it's the only place in the world where you'll be able to read and hear history before it happens.
Yes, indeed. And Gerald, to wrap things up, what do you think is the most important advice that you would like to share with our listeners?
To remember a few key words: integrity, dignity, respect, and peace.
Beautiful. Gerald, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Michelle. All the best, and thank you for what you're doing.
Mr. Gerald Celente, master of predictions and the brilliant mind behind the Trends Research Institute. For the Industry Experts Panel, I'm Michelle Holliday at PortfolioWealthGlobal.com.